I never thought I'd end up posting here. But after what happened last year, and after rereading my notes for the 100th time, I realized my story belongs on this place. For context, I used to work as a project coordinator at a medium-sized tech company. Not Google, not some shiny startup, just a regular place where everyone drank mediocre coffee and pretended to care about team building. I didn't love the job, but I liked my co-workers. The pay was decent, and for the first year, everything ran smoothly. Then came Marissa. You know the type. The kind of woman who read one LinkedIn article about future leadership mindsets and decided she was the reincarnation of Steve Jobs. She spoke in corporate buzzwords, hijacked other people's work, and believed that adding strategically to a sentence somehow made her sound smarter. At first, I tried to give her a chance. I really did. But Marissa treated the team like chess pieces, except she didn't know how to play chess. She'd jump into projects halfway through, demand changes that made no sense, then blame us when her ideas failed. She once asked me to deliver the presentation with more synergy, which, to this day, I still don't know the meaning of. But the worst part was that she had a habit of picking one employee to bully, and she picked me. Maybe because I was quiet, maybe because I didn't kiss up to her, maybe because I was good at my job and she felt threatened. Whatever the reason, she started subtly sabotaging me, deleting files, forgetting to add me to meetings, taking credit for my work, rewriting my reports to make them look sloppy, then forwarding them to upper management with a disappointed, "We need to discuss your performance." At first, I doubted myself. I thought maybe I was slipping. Maybe I wasn't keeping up. Maybe I was the problem. But then things escalated. One Monday morning, I walked into the office to find that Marissa had reassigned one of my major projects a project ID. Spent months preparing to her personal favorite, a guy named Connor who barely knew how to format a spreadsheet. When I asked her privately why she changed the assignment without telling me, she gave me this icy smile and said, "You just don't have the leadership qualities necessary." This decision wasn't personal, but it was personal. The next week, she held a performance review meeting with me where she told me, very calmly, that my attitude concerned her. She listed vague issues like lack of enthusiasm and reactive energy, none of which made sense. Then she slid a printed document across the table, an unofficial performance improvement plan. It was full of fabricated errors and deadlines I supposedly missed. Deadlines she herself had pushed back or redirected. It was the first step toward firing me. And that's when something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let this woman ruin my career to cover her incompetence. If she wanted a fight, she'd get one. But on my terms. What she didn't know was that I had receipts. Lots of them. See, 6 months earlier, when I first started noticing strange mistakes in my calendar and files, I'd begun documenting everything. Every email, every message, every deleted file with metadata logs, every meeting I was excluded from. I kept screenshots, timestamps, backups, and most importantly I had started using an approved workplace recording software during project meetings for note-taking purposes. That meant I had dozens of hours of audio that captured every instruction, every lie, every contradictory order, every slip-up. But that wasn't the best part. The best part was the email. 3 weeks before all this, Marissa, in one of her late-night micromanaging frenzies, sent me an email with a suggestion that was, in reality, a direct violation of company policy. She told me to manipulate certain data in a report to present more favorable metrics to the board, not change it dramatically, just enough to shape the narrative. It was subtle, but it was illegal. I responded with a polite refusal. She never replied. But she never retracted it either. I saved that email in 3 different folders. I didn't plan to use it, but after she handed me the performance plan, I realized I might have no choice. Still, revenge had to be slow, precise, like a scalpel. Over the next 2 weeks, I let her think she was winning. I nodded through her condescending lectures, accepted meaningless feedback, and played the perfect victim. Quiet, obedient, exhausted. She felt unstoppable. She got careless. She started putting more of her shady instructions in writing, likely because she assumed I would be fired soon and therefore irrelevant. Meanwhile, I was building a digital timeline so detailed, it looked like evidence for a court case. Because in a way, it would be. Then came the day she tried to finish me off. She called me into her office, fake sympathy dripping from every word, and said, "I'm sorry, but this just isn't working out. We're going to have to let you go." She slid a termination form across the desk. I didn't sign it. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. Instead, I smiled, calmly, slowly, and said, "Okay, but you might want to check your inbox first." And that, dear readers, is where the revenge truly begins. Marissa froze when I told her to check her inbox. It was subtle, but I saw the flicker of uncertainty cross her face. The first crack in her perfectly polished corporate queen mask. She clearly hadn't expected confidence from me. She expected me to crumble, like all the others she'd bullied out before. "Why?" she asked slowly, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You'll see," I said, standing up. "We'll wait outside." I walked out of her office with the same calm you feel right before lighting a fuse, because I knew what she was about to open, and I knew that it would flip her world upside down. The email she received contained a single line from me. "Before I sign anything, I'd like to officially submit the full documentation regarding the misconduct issues we previously discussed." And attached was a folder, a very, very large folder. Every screenshot, every deletion log, every meeting recording, every contradictory order, every incident where she tried to sabotage me. But most importantly, the crown jewel, her email instructing me to manipulate performance metrics for the board. I didn't write anything else. I didn't threaten. I didn't explain. I let the evidence speak for itself. As I sat down at my desk outside her office, I heard a muffled gasp, then the squeak of her chair, then the rapid clicking of a mouse, then silence so heavy I could practically feel it through the wall. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. The longer the silence, the bigger my smile. Finally, her door opened. She stepped out with a stiff, unnatural expression, her face pale beneath her foundation. "I need a moment," she said to nobody in particular, and hurried down the hallway toward the executive wing. Perfect. Because I didn't send that email to her alone. I CC'd HR, legal, the department head, and, just for good measure, one of the board members known for despising unethical behavior. By the time she reached their offices, they would already know everything. But I wasn't done yet. I calmly packed my personal items, not because I expected to be fired, but because I knew what was coming. Chaos. And I wanted front row seats with no distractions. About an hour later, HR called me in. Their tone wasn't cold this time. It wasn't even neutral. It was concerned, respectful, almost gentle. "Thank you for bringing this forward," the our manager said, adjusting her glasses. "We had no idea the situation had escalated this far." "Really?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Because I did mention some of these issues last quarter." "Yes, but Marissa reframed them." "Of course she did." HR motioned to the stack of papers printed from my documentation. The pile was so thick they clipped it with a binder clamp. "This is extensive," she said, "and frankly, alarming. Especially the email regarding the performance metrics." She said it was a suggestion. I replied. The HR manager let out a dry laugh. "The kind you make when something is so bad it almost becomes absurd. That's not a suggestion. That's a violation of corporate compliance policy, and possibly state law." Now we were getting somewhere. "Here's what needs to happen," Our continued. "You are not terminated. Effective immediately. Consider yourself on paid leave until this investigation is completed. We'll notify you of next steps." I nodded, thanked her, and walked out. But as I passed Marissa's office, I saw something that filled me with a warm, glowing satisfaction. Her door was closed. Inside, voices were raised. Not hers. The executive director's. He wasn't yelling, but his voice carried enough authority to sound like thunder through the hallway. I couldn't hear much, but I caught one line. Did you truly believe altering performance data was acceptable? And another. You've compromised this department. And finally, hand over your badge. I didn't need to hear the rest. The final line told me everything. She was done. Security escorted her out an hour later. The woman who strutted through the office like she owned every inch of it, now walked with her shoulders hunched, clutching a cardboard box. She didn't look at anyone, not even her favorites, not even Connor, who sat frozen at his desk, pale as chalk. She passed my cubicle. For a heartbeat, she slowed. Then she looked at me, really looked, and I saw something in her eyes I never expected from her. Fear. Not anger. Not hatred. Not indignation. Just pure, shocked fear. And then she walked away. The aftermath was delicious. The investigation wrapped up 2 weeks later. I asked if I wanted to return to my position or transfer to another department. At first, I considered staying. After all, I liked my co-workers. But then I realized something. I didn't want to be there anymore. Not because of the company, but because of what the whole ordeal had turned me into. The constant documenting, the stress, the second guessing. I wanted a clean slate. So I took a severance package, a very generous one. Apparently, the company desperately wanted to avoid any risk of me pursuing legal action. So they offered me 3 months paid severance, a glowing letter of recommendation, and a neutral explanation of my departure. Meanwhile, Marissa, well, I heard through the grapevine that she tried to get hired at another tech company. But HR departments talk, industry circles talk, reputations follow people, especially when compliance violations are involved. Word spread fast. She hasn't worked in management since. Last I heard, she was doing freelance consulting. Posting motivational quotes on LinkedIn like nothing happened. And me. I moved cities, got a much better job, and kept every piece of documentation. Not because I needed it, but because it reminds me of one simple truth. When someone tries to destroy your life to hide their own failures, the best revenge isn't rage. It's evidence. Calm, organized, devastating evidence. And the moment you drop it in their lap, they collapse under the weight of their own lies. 4 weeks after Marissa's dramatic exit, the office felt like a shaken snow globe. Everything glittering in the air, everyone whispering behind their monitors, unsure where things would land. People walked gently, spoke softly, exchanged curious glances whenever the subject of her name floated near. The tension wasn't fear anymore. It was fascination. Corporate downfall is messy, and humans, no matter how professional they pretend to be, are drawn to spectacle. I thought once she was gone, the whole storm would finally settle. But like I said earlier, I had underestimated how many layers this mess actually had. It began when I got an unexpected call. Not from HR, not from my manager, not from the department head. From legal. A polite but serious sounding woman named Chelsea invited me to an additional follow-up conversation regarding the ongoing investigation. She emphasized that I wasn't in trouble, but they needed clarification on certain details. I assumed it was paperwork, maybe some technicality, so I agreed to come in the next morning. When I arrived, they escorted me into a glass-walled conference room with a large binder sitting in the center of the table. My first thought was, that's way too thick to be about Marissa alone. Chelsea walked in with 2 other people, a senior compliance officer and someone from its security. That's when I realized something much bigger was happening. Chelsea opened the binder. My eyes widened. Every page was printed correspondence between Marissa and someone else. Someone who wasn't me. Emails, attachments, timestamp logs, conversations in private Slack threads. She flipped a page, and another, and then another. This she said calmly, adjusting her glasses, is what we found when we conducted a full audit of Morris's corporate account. Following the compliance breach, it wasn't just evidence of her misconduct. It was a roadmap of her patterns of misconduct. Apparently, the manipulation request she sent me wasn't a one-time lapse. She had done it before, multiple times, with different employees, on different projects, stretching back almost 2 years. And the bombshell: in several of those exchanges, she blatantly blamed poor team performance. Guess who was named most frequently? Me. Sometimes directly, sometimes implied, sometimes coached behind vague claims like my coordinator dropped the ball, or am still dealing with ops errors. Errors I never made. That was why some projects had seemed suspiciously delayed without anyone telling me why. That was why certain executives suddenly treated me coldly months before. That was why I kept getting excluded from meetings. She had been poisoning my reputation at upper levels long before she ever tried firing me. I wasn't simply her most recent target. I was her longest running one. Chelsea let that sink in before continuing. We are not just dealing with a policy violation. We are dealing with a repeated pattern of unethical behavior that puts the company at risk. The compliance officer leaned forward. And your documentation allowed us to uncover it. Without it, this may have gone unnoticed or dismissed as circumstantial. I didn't know what to say. I expected to feel vindicated, triumphant even, but instead, I felt this quiet, hollow ache in my stomach, realizing just how long someone had been undermining you behind the scenes. Does something to your sense of identity. It makes you question every memory, every success, every failure. Thank you, Chelsea said finally, her voice softening. What you provided didn't just help your case. It helped the entire company. But I wasn't sure I felt good about that. When the meeting was over, I walked out into the parking lot feeling strangely untethered. Like I'd stepped out of a long, oppressive fog only to realize I didn't recognize the sky anymore. And that's when things took an unexpected turn. As I reached my car, I saw someone standing near it. A familiar face. Connor. Morris's favorite. The guy she'd handpicked to replace me on that major project. The one who used to sit beside her in meetings, nodding eagerly at her bizarre suggestions. He looked rough. Exhausted. Sleepless bags under his eyes. Hair unstyled, shirt wrinkled. Hey, he said awkwardly. Do you have a minute? I considered ignoring him, getting in my car, and driving away. But something in his posture, the hunched shoulders, the wringing hands, made me pause. Okay, I said. A minute. He swallowed hard. I didn't know, he said immediately, about everything she did. I swear, I didn't know she was lying about you. I wasn't expecting that. He kept talking, words tumbling out like water from a broken dam. She made it sound like you were unmotivated, unreliable, always missing deadlines, always resisting feedback. She said you argued with her, that you didn't fit the culture. I believed her. He laughed nervously. I mean, she was my boss. I crossed my arms. Why are you telling me this now? He exhaled shakily. Because the investigation team talked to me, and they showed me the documents. The real ones, not the ones she gave me. Oh, there it was. He shoved both hands into his pockets. I didn't know how deep it went. She used me. And I feel like an idiot. He paused. Then he said something I didn't expect. They're investigating me too. My eyebrows shot up. For what? He winced. For benefiting from her misconduct, even unknowingly. And suddenly the larger picture became clearer. If she promoted him, protected him, reassigned my work to him, it could be interpreted as partiality tied to her manipulation. He wasn't guilty, not in the way she was, but he was collateral damage. Corporate collateral. I'm sorry, he said. I really am. I wanted you to know I never meant to take credit for your work. I didn't know it was yours. I nodded slowly. I didn't forgive him, not yet, but I appreciated the honesty. Before he walked away, he added one more thing. She's not done, you know. My head snapped up. What? Connor's voice dropped. She's been contacting people from the office, trying to, I don't know, convince them she was framed. Trying to get someone on her side. She reached out to me too. My stomach tightened. Be careful, he said quietly. She's desperate. People do stupid things when they're desperate. Then he left. And I stood there in the parking lot, heart pounding, realizing something terrifying. Marissa might have been fired. She might have been shamed. She might have lost everything. But she wasn't finished. Not yet. And I had no idea what she was planning next. For a few days after my conversation with Connor, everything felt eerily calm. Too calm. The kind of silence that settles right before a storm breaks. People at the office moved normally, joked at their desks, microwaved their lunches like always, but beneath it all, there was this collective tension. Like everyone sensed the story wasn't finished. And they were right. It started on a Thursday morning. I came into work and immediately noticed the security guards near the elevators. They weren't the usual evening shift guards who occasionally strolled through the lobby. These were corporate security, the kind that only showed up when something serious was happening. As I walked toward my desk, a few co-workers shot me strange, worried looks. Before I could even log into my computer, my manager, Grace, approached me with that tightly controlled expression managers use when they're trying not to panic. We need to talk, she whispered. In the conference room, now. My stomach dropped. When we entered the room, HR was there. Legal was there. Compliance was there. And the director of security. All sitting in a neat line. For a second, some primal part of my brain froze, assuming they had somehow turned the investigation on me. But the moment Chelsea from legal spoke, I knew that wasn't the case. Marissa attempted to access the building this morning. The words echoed through the room like a shockwave. She used her old keycard, which has been deactivated, Chelsea continued calmly. When that didn't work, she tried to follow an employee inside. Security intervened. I swallowed hard. Is she here? No, the security director said. She was escorted off the property. Then he hesitated. But she was agitated. Grace spoke gently, her eyes fixed on me. She said she needed to speak with certain individuals, that she had been wronged, that there was a conspiracy against her. And your name came up, Chelsea added. There it was, the confirmation of what I had been sensing all along. What does that mean for me? I asked quietly. It means, Chelsea said firmly, that we're taking precautions. We want you to work from home for the next week, with full pay, until everything stabilizes. I nodded, though something in me resisted the idea of hiding. But I understood. It was safety protocol. But the story wasn't over, not yet. Because the next morning, I received a message. Not from my work email, not from HR, not from a co-worker, from an unknown number. The preview on my lock screen made my skin crawl. You think you won. You have no idea what you started. My chest tightened. My mind spun through 1,000 possibilities. But when I opened the message, I saw something that made the fear evaporate, replaced by disgust and disbelief. Attached was a blurry photo of documents. Documents I recognized. Old project files. Performance evaluation drafts. Random spreadsheets. All things that had been stored on the company's server, the server Marissa had lost access to. She must have taken them long before her termination. A second message came through. I still have everything I need to clear my name. They'll believe me once I show them what you did. That was the moment everything clicked. She wasn't trying to ruin my reputation anymore. She was trying to rewrite history. She needed me to be the villain in her story, because that was the only narrative that allowed her to avoid accepting what she'd done. I forwarded the messages to legal immediately, and honestly, I thought that would be the end. But fate, it seems, had one last twist planned. 2 days later, the company called an emergency meeting mandatory for all employees, a rare occurrence, something only done when something seismic was happening internally. When the meeting started, the CEO himself walked to the front of the room. Everyone fell silent. His tone was clear, steady, controlled but sharp enough to cut glass. "We have concluded a comprehensive internal review, prompted by recent events involving a former employee." You could feel the room holding its breath. In the process of that investigation, we discovered a substantial pattern of misconduct, breaches of confidentiality, and manipulation of internal records. He didn't say her name. He didn't have to. Furthermore, he continued, "We have submitted our findings to the appropriate external authorities." The room erupted in whispers. I froze. External authorities? Was it really that serious? Then he said something that shook me. Certain financial discrepancies were uncovered during the audit. These appear to be connected to deliberate falsification of data, intended to benefit a single individual. My heart nearly stopped. She hadn't just manipulated documents. She had used corporate data to angle for promotions, bonuses, and project ownership fraudulently. The CEO finished with a calm, heavy finality. "Our organization stands for integrity, and when someone compromises that, no matter who they are, there are consequences." He walked off stage without another word. The room burst like a beehive kicked in the center. People whispered, theorized, exchanged uneasy glances. But even as the chaos spread around me, I felt something else entirely. Relief. A deep, aching, overwhelming sense of relief. Not triumph. Not revenge-spiked satisfaction. Just peace. For the first time in months, maybe longer, I felt like the ground beneath me was solid again. That evening, I received one more call. From Chelsea. "It's over," she said gently. "We've submitted everything. You won't hear from her again." I asked the question lingering in my throat. "Is she going to jail?" There was a long pause. Then, "That's not for us to decide anymore. But the authorities are taking it seriously." I thanked her and hung up. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post online. I didn't tell friends or family the full story. Instead, I sat quietly in my apartment, looking out the window at the city lights flickering like distant constellations. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt like myself again. Like a chapter had closed. Like a wound had finally healed, not cleanly, not without scars, but fully. Marissa had tried to destroy me. She'd tried to erase me. She'd tried to make me the villain in her crumbling story. But in the end, she wrote her own ending. And all I had to do was tell the truth.